There's a moment, quiet, unannounced, when love stops being something you hope for and becomes something you feel in your bones. It's not loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic declarations. It's softer than that. It's the sudden absence of anxiety when his phone is off. It's the calm that settles in when a call gets delayed. Not because you've given up, but because you know. You know he's coming back. You know his silence isn't rejection. You know his effort is real, even when it's invisible to the world. And that peace, that's not passive, that's power. Because true emotional security isn't the absence of distance, it's the presence of trust so deep that space can't shake it. And one of the most profound signs he loves you from afar is this: he includes you in his future with absolute clarity. Not in vague dreams like someday we'll be together, but in concrete plans. Dates discussed, visits scheduled, decisions made with your name in the room. He doesn't talk about his life as if you're a guest in it. He talks about your life, your home, your next chapter as if it's already real. And that's not just romance. That's commitment in motion. Psychology shows us that the brain craves certainty. When someone consistently aligns their actions with a shared future, it activates the reward centers in your mind, not because of excitement, but because of safety. You stop living in the fear of loss because his choices keep proving that you're not going anywhere. He doesn't just say, I miss you. He says, I've booked my flight for the 14th, or I'm looking at apartments near your city, or let's plan our trip for June. What dates work for you? These aren't small things. They are promises wrapped in action. And every time he follows through, he's not just keeping a word, he's building a foundation. Because love without direction is just emotion. But love with intention, that's destiny in the making. And when a man pulls you into his vision without hesitation, without making you beg for a place, he's telling you, louder than any I love you ever could, you are my priority. My future has your name on it. That kind of inclusion changes how you see yourself. You stop questioning your worth because his actions reflect it daily. You start standing taller, not because he lifted you, but because he showed you the truth. You are not a backup plan. You are not a temporary comfort. You are the person he's building toward. And that belief, he holds it, and slowly you begin to hold it too. It rewires your heart. You stop waiting for proof and start living from it. You dress with more confidence, speak with more certainty, dream with more boldness, because deep down you know you're loved not in theory, but in practice. You're not imagining a future, you're preparing for one. And that shift, it's everything, because when you believe in a shared tomorrow, you stop sacrificing your today. You don't abandon your goals, your passions, your growth, because real love doesn't demand that. It celebrates it. He doesn't ask you to shrink so he can feel bigger. He encourages you to rise because your success is his joy, not his threat. And in that space, something sacred grows, mutual respect. That's the bedrock of lasting love. Not just passion, not just chemistry, but two people who see each other's light and say, go shine. I'll be right here, building beside you. And when distance tries to whisper doubt, you don't collapse. You stand firm because you've seen the plans, heard the commitments, felt the intention. You've watched him turn words into dates on a calendar, dreams into tickets, love into action. And no silence, no delay, no bad day can erase what's already been built. This is how real relationships survive distance, not by clinging, but by growing, not by constant contact, but by shared direction. And the woman who recognizes this sign, the one who sees that inclusion in the future isn't a maybe, but a when, she stops living in fear and starts living in faith, not blind faith. Faith backed by evidence, faith earned through consistency. And that faith, it doesn't just protect her heart, it empowers it. She becomes someone who doesn't just wait, she prepares. She builds her life with purpose, knowing that love isn't about losing herself in someone else, but about becoming someone worthy of a great love. And she already is. She always has been. The distance isn't a barrier, it's a bridge. And every plan he makes, every time he says we instead of me, every moment he pulls her into his tomorrow, he's laying another plank across that gap. Closer, stronger, unstoppable. And when they finally stand together again, they won't just embrace as lovers reunited. They'll stand as partners who never stop moving toward each other, through time, through silence, through every mile. Because their love wasn't just felt, it was built. You felt it before. That moment when a single message changes everything. not because of what it says, but because of what it carries beneath the words. A simple "good morning, beautiful. I was just thinking about how proud I am of you" lands differently when you've been waiting, when you've been doubting, when you've been wondering if you're even on his mind at all. And in that instant, something inside you softens. Not because the words are perfect, but because they're specific, because they show he's not just going through the motions, he's seeing you. He notices your strength, he sees your effort, he recognizes your growth, and he names it. That's not just affection, that's emotional presence, and it's one of the most powerful signs he truly loves you across the distance, not because he says, "I love you," but because he sees you deeply and clearly and reflects back the woman you're becoming. Because here's the truth, anyone can send a text. Anyone can say sweet things, but only someone who truly loves you will pay attention to the quiet shifts. The way you've started speaking up for yourself, the way you've taken on a new challenge at work, the way you've healed from something that once broke you. And when he notices those things, when he points them out with genuine pride, he's doing more than complimenting you. He's saying, "I'm not just here for your happiness, I'm here for your journey." And that kind of attention is rare. It's not performative. It's not surface level. It's intimate. Psychology confirms this. Being seen, truly seen, is one of the deepest human needs. It's the foundation of emotional intimacy. When someone observes your growth and celebrates it without jealousy, without competition, without trying to redirect the focus back to themselves, they are proving, in the quietest and most powerful way, that your well-being matters to them as much as their own. That's love. Not just in feeling, but in focus. And when a man consistently acknowledges your progress, not just your appearance, not just your mood, but your evolution, he's showing that he's emotionally invested in your life, not just your presence. He's not waiting for you to be perfect. He's celebrating you as you grow. And that changes how you see yourself. You start to walk differently. You speak with more confidence. You take risks, not because you're reckless, but because you know there's someone in your corner who believes in you, even when you're miles apart. That belief becomes a part of you. It lives in your chest. It whispers, "Keep going," when doubt creeps in. And the more he sees you, the more you see yourself. You stop minimizing your wins. You stop saying, "It was nothing," when you've done something brave, because he won't let you. He calls it what it is: courage, strength, growth. And in doing so, he helps you reclaim your own narrative. You're not just surviving distance, you're transforming through it. And he's not just watching, he's honoring it. That's what real support looks like. It's not always loud. It doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it's a voice note sent at midnight saying, "I heard you mention that meeting today. I know how much it meant to you. I'm so proud you spoke up." That's not just love, that's partnership. That's choosing to be present, even when physically absent. And when a man does this, when he pays attention to the details that matter, when he remembers the small fears you shared, the goals you're chasing, the wounds you're healing, he's not just proving he cares, he's building a bridge of emotional safety that distance cannot break. You begin to trust not just his words, but his awareness. You know he's not distracted by someone else because no one else knows you like he does. No one else tracks your journey with such care. And that knowledge, it doesn't just comfort you, it empowers you. You stop seeking validation from the world because you already have it from someone who knows your heart. And in that space, you grow bolder. You set bigger goals. You love more openly. Because being seen doesn't just make you feel loved, it makes you feel real. And when you feel real, you stop hiding. You stop pretending you're okay when you're not. You start showing up as you are, flaws, fears, dreams, and all, and he doesn't pull away, he leans in. That's the sign, not perfection, not constant contact, but consistent emotional attunement, the kind that says, "I may not be there to hold your hand, but I'm here to hold your heart." And when you have that, distance doesn't feel like emptiness, it feels like space. Space for both of you to grow, to shine, to become the people who will one day build a life together, not out of need, but out of choice. And every time he sees you, truly sees you, he renews that choice again and again until one day the distance closes, but the depth remains. And you stand together, not as two people who survived separation, but as two souls who used it to love more deeply, more clearly, more completely than ever before. There's a quiet strength in knowing you're not just remembered, you're protected. Not in a controlling way, not with jealousy or demands, but with loyalty that runs so deep it doesn't need to be announced. It's felt, it's lived. It's the way he speaks about you when you're not there, the way he sets boundaries without hesitation, the way he chooses you, not just in moments of passion, but in moments of temptation, of loneliness, of weakness. Because distance doesn't just test love, it reveals character. And one of the most powerful signs he truly loves you is this: he guards your relationship with unwavering integrity. He doesn't flirt to fill the silence. He doesn't lean into someone else's attention when he's tired or missing you. He doesn't let convenience replace commitment. He stands firm, not because it's easy, but because your love is worth the discipline. And that kind of loyalty isn't just romantic, it's rare. It's the kind of faithfulness that isn't forced by rules, but driven by respect. Psychology shows us that emotional fidelity is rooted in self-awareness and emotional maturity. It's not about fear of getting caught. It's about honor. It's about knowing who you are, what you've committed to, and refusing to betray that, even in private moments when no one would know. And when a man lives that way, when he chooses restraint not out of obligation but out of devotion, he's sending a message louder than any grand gesture. You are enough. You are my choice, and I will not risk what we have for a moment of distraction. That kind of loyalty doesn't just protect the relationship, it protects you. It gives you space to breathe, to trust, to love without fear. Because the deepest wound in distance isn't physical absence, it's the fear of being replaced in small, invisible ways. The fear that while you're being faithful, someone else is stepping into the space you've left open. But when he proves through consistent action that he's not just loving you when it's convenient, but defending that love when it's hard, something shifts inside you. You stop guarding your heart like a fortress and start opening it like a home. You relax, you soften. You allow yourself to be vulnerable, not because you're naive, but because you've been given proof. And that proof isn't in words. It's in the way he shuts down flirtation, the way he avoids situations that could blur lines, the way he talks about your future even when you're not around. These are not accidents. They are decisions, hundreds of them, made in silence without applause that add up to one undeniable truth: he is all in. And when you know that, you don't just feel loved, you feel secure, not the kind of security that comes from possessiveness, but the kind that comes from mutual respect. You know you're not just a placeholder, you're the standard. And that changes how you carry yourself. You walk with more dignity, you speak with more confidence. You set your own boundaries, not out of fear, but out of self-worth, because you're being loved in a way that honors your value. That's what real loyalty does. It doesn't shrink you, it expands you. It allows you to trust not just him, but the love itself. You stop analyzing every social media post, every group photo, every late-night message. Because you've seen the pattern. You've felt the consistency. You know his character. And character isn't revealed in the spotlight. It's revealed in the shadows, in the choices no one sees. When he turns down what's easy to stay true to what's right, he's not just being faithful to you, he's being faithful to himself. And that kind of man doesn't just love you from a distance, he honors you across it. He doesn't treat your relationship as something fragile that needs constant proof. He treats it as something sacred that deserves constant protection. And when you're loved like that, you begin to protect yourself too. You stop tolerating less than you deserve. You stop questioning your worth in moments of silence. You stand firm, not because you're controlling, but because you've been given the greatest gift in a long-distance love: peace. The peace that comes from knowing you're not just wanted, you're chosen every single day in ways that matter. And that peace, it doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful. It fuels your growth. It gives you the courage to keep building your life, knowing that when the distance ends, you won't be reuniting with someone who drifted, but with someone who stayed, someone who fought for you without drama, without reminders, without needing credit, someone who loved you not just in words, but in silence, in restraint, in the quiet daily decision to do the right thing. And when you finally stand face to face again, you won't just see the man you love, you'll see the man who never stopped loving you, through every mile, every test, every unseen moment, and in that gaze there will be no doubt. Only truth, only trust, only love, proven not by distance but by depth. There's a moment, rare and electric, when you realize you're not just loved for who you are, but challenged to become more. Not in a way that feels harsh or unkind, but in a way that wakes something deep inside you. A text that says, "I know you're scared, but I also know you're brave," doesn't just comfort you. It calls you forward. It doesn't let you hide in fear. It reminds you of your strength even when you've forgotten it. And that right there is one of the most powerful signs he truly loves you from a distance. He doesn't just accept you as you are. He believes in who you're becoming, and he won't let you settle for less than your potential. Because real love isn't just about comfort. It's about growth. It's about two people who don't just soothe each other's wounds, but inspire each other to heal. And when a man loves you like that, he doesn't avoid the hard conversations. He leans into them. He asks, "Are you really happy with how things are going?" Not to criticize, but to awaken. He gently points out when you're selling yourself short, not to control you, but to free you. He sees the fire in you, even when you've dimmed it to fit in, to please, to survive. And he won't stay silent. He'll say, "You were made for more," not because it sounds good, but because he knows it. And that kind of love that challenges, that provokes, that refuses to let you shrink, is not common. It's not easy. It requires courage on both sides. Because to be loved this way means you can't play small. You can't hide behind excuses. You can't blame circumstances and expect sympathy without action. He'll support you, yes, he'll hold you when you cry. But he'll also look you in the eyes, through the screen, through the miles, and say, "I know you can do this," in a way that makes you believe it too. Psychology confirms this. The healthiest relationships are not those without conflict, but those where both partners feel safe enough to grow. When someone encourages your evolution without fear that you'll outgrow them, they're proving a deep emotional security. They're not threatened by your success, they're fueled by it. And when a man celebrates your ambitions, pushes you toward your dreams, and holds you accountable with kindness, he's not trying to change you, he's helping you return to yourself. The self you were before the world told you to be quieter, smaller, safer. And in that space, something powerful happens. You stop seeing love as a refuge from the world and start seeing it as fuel for your purpose. You begin to move differently. You speak with more conviction. You take steps you've been afraid to take, not because the path is clear, but because you know someone believes in you, even when you don't. That belief becomes a quiet force inside you. It doesn't erase fear, but it walks beside you through it. And when he says, "I know this is hard, but I also know you're strong enough," it's not just encouragement, it's an anchor. Because love like this doesn't enable dependency, it inspires independence. It doesn't make you need him more, it makes you want him more, by choice, by desire, by admiration. And that's the difference. When a man loves you from a distance, not just with affection, but with faith in your strength, he's not holding you back with neediness. He's pushing you forward with respect. He wants you to shine, even if it means he has to wait longer to be near you. He wants you to win, even if it means your life gets busier, your schedule tighter, because he's not in love with your attention, he's in love with your soul. And a soul that's growing is a soul that's alive. And when you're loved like that, you stop asking, "Does he need me?" and start knowing he believes in me, and that knowledge, it's transformational. It makes you bolder, it makes you take risks, it makes you speak up, stand tall, reach higher, not to impress him, but because you've internalized his belief until it becomes your own. You start making decisions from power, not fear. You set boundaries. You chase dreams. You stop waiting for permission, because the man who truly loves you doesn't give you permission. He reminds you that you already have it. And when he does that, again and again, through messages, calls, quiet moments of truth, you begin to see your relationship, not as a test of distance, but as a partnership of purpose. You're not just waiting to be together. You're building towards something greater. And the love that survives distance isn't the one that clings. It's the one that grows, that evolves, that refuses to let each other stay the same. So if he's the one who sees your potential even when you can't, who gently but firmly calls you back to your courage, who loves you not just for your softness but for your strength, know this: you are not just loved. You are being led by love into the fullness of who you were meant to be. And when the distance ends, you won't just reunite. You'll rise together, not as two people who survived time apart, but as two souls who used it to become unstoppable. You felt the weight of silence, the way it presses on your chest when hours pass without a word, the way your mind races, inventing reasons, imagining worst-case scenarios, wondering if you've somehow faded from his thoughts. But what if silence isn't always absence? What if sometimes it's simply life? Because love across distance doesn't exist in a vacuum. It lives in the real world, where jobs demand focus, families need attention, and exhaustion creeps in after long days. And one of the most overlooked signs he truly loves you is this: when silence comes, it's never empty, it's never cold. It's followed by a return that carries weight, intention, and depth. He doesn't disappear and reappear with casual indifference. He returns with presence, with warmth, with a voice that says, "I'm back," not just in words, but in energy. He doesn't act like the gap never happened. He acknowledges it. He says, "I'm sorry I was quiet today. My phone died, and then I got pulled into back-to-back meetings, but I've been thinking about you." That kind of reconnection isn't automatic. It's conscious. It's the mark of someone who doesn't take your love for granted, who knows your heart notices, who respects your need for emotional continuity, and who refuses to leave you in the dark without explanation. Psychology reveals something powerful. Emotional safety isn't destroyed by temporary absence, but by unacknowledged absence. When someone re-enters a relationship after silence without addressing the gap, it creates anxiety. It makes the other person feel like an option, like they weren't missed, like their space in his life was easily filled by nothing. But when he returns with honesty, with care, with a gentle bridge back into connection, he's doing more than apologizing. He's reaffirming you matter. Your attention matters. I didn't forget you. I'm still here. And that consistency and reconnection over time builds something unshakable: trust, not blind trust, earned trust, the kind that forms when you realize he doesn't vanish without a trace. He doesn't punish you with silence. He doesn't use distance as an excuse to disengage. He may have bad days. He may get overwhelmed. He may need space, but he never lets silence become a wall. He turns it into a doorway back to you. And when you experience that again and again, something inside you settles. You stop spiraling when his phone is off. You stop interpreting quiet as rejection. You begin to understand love isn't measured in constant contact. It's measured in quality of return, in the way he comes back to you, not with guilt, not with defensiveness, but with warmth, with openness, with a heart still tuned to yours. That's not just love, that's emotional integrity. And when a man protects the connection like that, even from afar, he's proving he values it more than convenience. He chooses you not only when it's easy, but when life gets messy. And that kind of loyalty doesn't just comfort you, it strengthens you, because now you don't have to be the only one holding the thread. You know he's holding it too. You can breathe. You can focus on your own life, your own growth, your own peace, knowing that when he's absent, it's not because he's pulling away, but because life pulled him in. And when he returns, it's not with performance, but with presence. He asks how you were during the silence. He listens to your experience. He doesn't just explain his side. He cares about how you felt. And that empathy, that's the soul of emotional maturity. It shows he doesn't just love you when things are smooth. He loves you enough to repair the small ruptures before they grow. He understands that distance already creates natural separation, so he refuses to add emotional distance on top of it. And when you're loved like that, you stop living in fear of disconnection. You start trusting the rhythm of your bond. You learn that love isn't a constant stream of messages. It's a deep current that keeps flowing, even when you can't see it. And you become someone who doesn't panic in the quiet. You become someone who uses the space to grow, to reflect, to strengthen your own foundation, because you know he's doing the same. You don't need to cling. You don't need to demand attention. You simply live your truth, knowing that when he returns, it will be with the same heart that left. And that peace, earned through consistency, protected by honesty, deepened by empathy, is one of the greatest signs of all. Not grand gestures, not endless texts, but the quiet, steady proof that no matter how far apart you are, no matter how life pulls him away, he always finds his way back to you with his full heart, his full attention, and his full love. And when that becomes your normal, distance doesn't feel like separation. It feels like a season, and you stand in it, not broken, but unshaken, because you're loved in a way that lasts not just in moments, but in moments after the silence. You've learned to read between the lines, not out of insecurity, but out of love. You've come to understand that the deepest truths aren't always spoken. They're carried in tone, in timing, in the weight behind a single word. And now, you begin to notice something subtle yet undeniable, the way he shares his world with you. Not just the highlights, not just the happy moments captured in photos, but the raw, unfiltered pieces, The stress of a bad day, the doubt before a big decision, the quiet loneliness he feels when he looks at your picture before bed. He doesn't hide behind a perfect image. He lets you see the cracks. He tells you, I had a rough day, not to burden you, but because he trusts you with his truth. And that, right there, is one of the most powerful signs he truly loves you from a distance. Vulnerability. Not forced, not performative, but real, unguarded, consistent. Because when a man opens his heart to you across miles, when he chooses to be emotionally naked even when he can't be physically close, he's giving you the rarest gift in love, access to his inner world. And that doesn't happen lightly. Psychology confirms that true intimacy is built not on proximity but on emotional risk. When someone shares their fears, their failures, their private struggles, they are saying, without words, I trust you with the part of me I hide from the world. And when he does that again and again, you're not just his lover, you're his sanctuary, his safe place. And that kind of connection doesn't form from casual affection. It forms from deep emotional investment. It forms when someone sees you not just as a source of comfort, but as a partner worthy of their honesty. He doesn't wait for you to pry, he offers it. He says, I was scared today, or I miss you so much it hurts, not because he expects you to fix it, but because he wants you to know it. He wants you to feel included, not just in his joy, but in his struggle. And when you're trusted like that, something shifts inside you. You stop feeling like a visitor in his life and start feeling like a pillar. You realize your presence matters, not just for the laughs, but for the healing. You become someone he leans on, not just emotionally, but spiritually. And that kind of role isn't given. It's earned through consistency, through patience, through the quiet strength you've shown even when you didn't think he was watching, because he has been watching. He's seen how you hold space, how you listen without rushing to fix, how you respond with empathy, not judgment. And because of that, he feels safe to be weak with you. And that, more than any grand gesture, proves love, because strength is easy to show. Weakness? That takes courage. And when a man chooses to be vulnerable with you across distance, when he lets you see the parts of him that aren't strong, he's proving that your love isn't conditional on perfection. It's rooted in reality, in truth, in the messy, beautiful human experience of being alive. And when you're loved like that, you begin to open too. You stop hiding your own fears. You stop pretending you're fine when you're not. You start sharing your truth, not to seek rescue, but because you know he'll hold it with care. And in that exchange of pain, of doubt, of realness, your bond deepens in a way no physical closeness ever could. Distance doesn't weaken this kind of love. It intensifies it, because without the distraction of touch, without the comfort of presence, what's left is pure emotional truth. And when two people choose to be honest, to be raw, to be seen in their brokenness, they build something unbreakable. Not because they're perfect, but because they're real. And when he tells you, I don't know how I'd get through this without you, not as drama, but as quiet truth, you feel it in your bones. This is love, not the fairy tale, the real thing, the kind that stands in the storm and says, I'm still here, I'm still choosing you. And that kind of love doesn't just survive distance, it thrives in it, because it's not built on what you do together, but on who you are to each other when the world gets heavy. So if he lets you see his fear, his doubt, his loneliness, if he trusts you with the parts of him that ache, know this, you are not just loved. You are needed, not in a desperate way, but in a sacred one. You are his emotional home. And when the distance closes and you finally stand face to face, you won't just embrace as lovers reunited, you'll meet as souls who never truly parted. Because you've been walking through life's hardest moments together, heart to heart, voice to voice, soul to soul, proving that even miles cannot separate two people who refuse to hide from each other. There's a quiet revolution happening inside you, one you may not have noticed yet. It began the first time you chose to believe in love when doubt was easier. The first time you sent a message without expecting an immediate reply and still felt peace. The first time you looked at your life and realized you weren't just surviving the distance, you were growing through it. And now something has shifted. You're no longer waiting for love to make you feel worthy. You're living from worthiness and letting love meet you there. That's the final, most powerful sign he truly loves you from afar, your own transformation. Because real love doesn't just change how you feel, it changes who you become. And when a man loves you with consistency, with loyalty, with emotional courage, you don't just receive that love, you rise to match it. You stop asking, does he love me? And start living as someone who knows she is loved and acts accordingly. You set stronger boundaries, you speak with more clarity. You pursue your dreams with bolder steps, not because he told you to, but because being deeply loved has awakened your own power. Psychology shows us that being in a secure, supportive relationship doesn't weaken independence. It strengthens it. When you feel emotionally safe, when you know you're not alone, you actually take more risks. You reach higher. You trust yourself more because love, when it's real, doesn't cling, it empowers. And the man who truly loves you isn't holding you back with neediness. He's cheering you forward with pride. He doesn't fear your growth. He fuels it. And in that space, you begin to see your relationship not as a test of endurance, but as a sacred partnership where both of you are becoming better, not just for each other, but for yourselves. You notice it in small ways. You dress with more confidence because you feel seen. You speak up at work because you've been encouraged to value your voice. You say no to things that drain you because you've learned through his example what real respect looks like. And you carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone because it's been reflected back to you day after day in the way he shows up, in the way he speaks, in the way he chooses you. That kind of love doesn't inflate the ego, it heals the soul. And when you're loved like that, steadily, deeply, honestly, you stop measuring your value by his attention and start living from an inner knowing, I am enough, I always have been. And that shift, it's everything. Because now you're not just loving him from a distance, you're loving yourself with the same intensity. You're protecting your peace. You're honoring your needs. You're refusing to beg for effort from someone who should offer it freely. And if he's not showing up the way you deserve, you don't crumble, you don't beg, you don't shrink, you stand firm. Because real love should never make you feel small. It should make you feel seen, safe, and strong. And if it doesn't, then it's not love, it's attachment. Not connection, it's dependency. And you're too evolved now to confuse the two. Because the woman who has been truly loved doesn't panic when someone fades. She grieves, yes, she feels the loss deeply, but she doesn't lose herself. She remembers her worth. She returns to her center, she keeps going. And that's the ultimate proof of transformation. Not that you were loved, but that you learned how to love yourself through the process. So if you've made it this far, if you've weathered silence, fought doubt, chosen trust, and still kept your heart open, you are not the same woman you were when this journey began. You're wiser, stronger, clearer. And no matter how this relationship unfolds, you've already won. Because you didn't just wait for love, you grew with it, you rose through it. You became someone who doesn't just want a great love, but who embodies it. And when the right man sees you, truly sees the woman you've become, he won't just love you. He'll be humbled by you. He'll know he's standing beside someone rare, someone unshakable, someone who turned distance into depth, pain into power, and love into a force that doesn't just connect two people, but transforms them both. And that is the highest purpose of love, not to complete you, but to awaken you. And you're awake now, wide awake. And nothing, no silence, no separation, no fear, will ever dim the light you now carry within. You are not meant to carry the weight of proof. You are not meant to dissect every silence, decode every delay, or beg for reassurance like it's a favor. Love should not feel like a puzzle you have to solve. It should feel like air, something you breathe without thinking, something that sustains you simply because it's there. And if you've been questioning, doubting, straining to find evidence that he loves you, it's not because you're insecure. It's because you've been made to feel like love is something you must earn, something that needs constant validation. But real love doesn't demand proof from you. It offers it freely. It shows up. It speaks. It acts. And when it does, you don't have to wonder. That knowing isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic declarations. It's quiet. It lives in your chest. It's the absence of anxiety when he's quiet for a day. It's the calm that settles in because his pattern of care has rewired your nervous system to trust. You no longer brace for disappointment because his consistency has taught your heart you are not an afterthought. You are a priority. And that peace, earned not through words but through repeated action, is the most powerful sign of all. Because love isn't a feeling that flickers. It's a choice that's made again and again, every time he reaches out after a long day, every time he remembers the small thing you mentioned in passing, every time he includes you in his decisions, his dreams, his fears. These are not random acts, they are bricks. And together they build a foundation so solid that distance cannot shake it. And when you stand on that foundation, you stop asking, does he love me? And start living as someone who is loved, deeply, consistently, intentionally. You walk differently. You speak with more confidence. You set boundaries without apology because you've learned what real emotional presence looks like, and you will no longer settle for less. You know the difference between someone who loves you when it's easy and someone who loves you because it's hard. Someone who stays not out of habit, but out of devotion. And that clarity, it doesn't just protect your heart. It liberates it. You stop shrinking into fear and start expanding into truth. You stop measuring love by frequency and start recognizing it in fidelity, in the way he protects your bond, in the way he speaks about you, in the way he plans for a future that has your name on it. You realize that love isn't about how often he texts, but about how deeply he cares. It's not about grand gestures, but about daily devotion. And when you see that, when you truly see it, something inside you locks into place. You stop needing to convince yourself. You stop defending the relationship to others. You stop making excuses for inconsistency because you know, and no one can talk you out of knowing. That's the power of evidence-based love, not fantasy, not hope, but pattern. Psychology confirms this. The human brain craves predictability in relationships. When someone shows up with emotional reliability, it reduces stress, increases well-being, and deepens attachment. You don't love someone despite the distance. You love them through it because their actions make it possible. And the woman who recognizes this, who refuses to confuse attention with affection, who demands consistency over convenience, she isn't being demanding. She's being wise. She's honoring her worth. She's saying, without words, I deserve love that feels safe, love that feels sure, love that doesn't make me question my value. And when you live from that truth, you attract not just love, but real love. The kind that doesn't fade when life gets busy, the kind that doesn't disappear when silence comes, the kind that returns with warmth, with honesty, with presence. And if he isn't doing that, if he leaves you guessing, if he makes you beg for effort, if his love feels conditional or inconsistent, then this moment is your awakening, not to lose hope, but to raise your standard, because you are not meant to fight for a love that should come naturally. You are meant to receive it, to be chosen, to be cherished, to be seen. And no amount of distance justifies emotional neglect. No title, boyfriend, partner, future husband matters more than action. And if his actions don't match his words, then the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop making excuses, not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Because the woman who has been truly loved doesn't stay where she's doubted. She walks away with dignity, knowing her heart is too precious to be left waiting in the dark. And whether he wakes up to what he has or not, you've already won, because you've learned to tell the difference between love and illusion. And that knowledge, that power, that unshakable sense of self, no one can take that from you. It's yours forever. You are not broken because you miss him. You are not weak because your heart aches when the silence stretches too long. You are not foolish for still believing, still hoping, still choosing love even when it's hard. You are human. And to feel deeply is not a flaw, it's a gift. But here's what no one tells you. The depth of your love is not the problem. The problem is believing that love should hurt this much, that it should drain you, that it should make you question your worth. Real love doesn't leave you gasping for reassurance. It doesn't make you feel like you're carrying the entire weight of the connection. It doesn't force you to prove your loyalty while receiving none in return. And if you've been giving everything while getting scraps in return, it's not because you're not enough. It's because you've been giving your heart to someone who isn't showing up with theirs. Because love is not one-sided. It's not a performance you put on to keep someone interested. It's a mutual exchange of effort, of care, of presence. And when it's real, you don't have to beg for it. You feel it in the quiet moments, in the unforced gestures, in the consistency that doesn't waver when life gets busy. So if you've been exhausted by the effort, if you've been drained by the uncertainty, if you've been giving your all while wondering if he even notices, this is your wake-up call, not to give up on love, not to close your heart, but to protect it, to honor it, to demand what you truly deserve because you were not made to be an option. You were made to be a priority. And a man who truly loves you doesn't make you fight for that place. He gives it freely. He shows up not just when he's lonely, but when you're struggling. He doesn't disappear when things get hard. He leans in. He asks, how can I support you? Not because he has to, but because he wants to. That's not romance. That's responsibility, emotional responsibility. And it's the mark of a man who doesn't just feel love, he lives it. Psychology confirms that healthy relationships are built on mutual investment. When one person consistently gives more time, more energy, more emotional labor, the bond becomes unbalanced. Resentment grows, exhaustion sets in, and the person giving everything begins to lose themselves. But when both partners show up with equal courage, equal care, equal commitment, the relationship doesn't feel like work. It feels like home. And if you're the only one building that home, it's time to stop, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of self-love. Because the most powerful thing you can do right now is to stop normalizing neglect. Stop telling yourself, maybe he's just busy. Stop minimizing your pain because he hasn't given you a reason to leave. You don't need a reason to leave. You need a reason to stay. And if that reason isn't daily proof of love, of effort, of loyalty, then you already have your answer. You don't have to stay to prove your devotion. You don't have to suffer to prove your love. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to walk away from anything that dims your light. And when you do, it's not failure. It's freedom. Because the woman who walks away from half-hearted love isn't running. She's rising. She's saying, I know my worth. I know what real love looks like. And I will no longer settle for less. And that decision, more than any relationship, will transform your life. It will teach you that your peace is non-negotiable, that your time is precious, that your heart is not a bargaining chip. And when you live from that truth, something incredible happens. You attract not just love, but worthy love, the kind that matches your energy, the kind that sees you, chooses you, fights for you without being asked, the kind that doesn't make you wonder, but makes you know. And if he's already doing that, if he's already showing up, already proving it, already loving you with action, not just words, then this message is your confirmation. Hold on. Not out of fear of losing him, but because you found something real. And if he isn't, then this is your liberation. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not unlovable. You are becoming. And the moment you stop begging for love and start believing in your worth, everything changes. Because love doesn't find you when you're desperate. It finds you when you're ready. And you're ready now. You are not meant to live in the space between hope and fear. You are not meant to build your peace on the fragile foundation of someone else's attention. You are meant to stand on solid ground, ground that doesn't shift with a delayed message or a quiet day. And if you've been measuring your worth by his responsiveness, if you've been tying your self-esteem to his effort, then this moment is your awakening. Love should not cost you your inner calm. It should not demand your silence, your shrinking, your constant reassurance. Real love doesn't destabilize you. It centers you. It doesn't make you question your value. It reminds you of it. And when a man truly loves you from a distance, he doesn't leave you guessing. He doesn't make you the only one holding the connection together. He meets you with energy, with intention, with consistency. He doesn't wait for you to carry the emotional weight. He shares it. And when you feel that balance, when you feel seen, respected, and valued without having to fight for it, something inside you settles. You stop chasing, you stop overthinking, you stop twisting yourself into someone easier to love because you realize you are already enough. And the right person won't ask you to be anything more. He won't demand perfection. He won't punish you for having needs. He won't make you feel guilty for wanting emotional safety. He'll give it freely because to him, your peace matters. Psychology shows us that emotional security is not created by grand gestures, but by daily acts of reliability. When someone shows up with steady care, your nervous system learns to relax. You stop living in survival mode. You stop bracing for abandonment. You begin to trust, not blindly, but because you've seen the pattern. And that trust, it doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful because now you're not loving out of fear of loss. You're loving from a place of strength. You set boundaries without apology. You speak your truth without hesitation. You walk away from anything that disrespects your heart because you know you don't have to tolerate less than devotion. And if he isn't giving you that, if you're the only one planning calls, the only one expressing love, the only one protecting the bond, then this isn't about distance, it's about priority. And you deserve to be a priority, not sometimes, not when it's convenient, but consistently. Because love isn't a part-time commitment, it's a daily choice. And if he's not choosing you every day, if his actions don't match his words, then you don't need another sign. You already have the answer. And the most courageous thing you can do is honor it, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because walking away from half-hearted love isn't failure. It's self-respect in motion. It's the moment you decide that your heart is too precious to be left waiting in the dark. And when you make that choice, something shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who was left. You start seeing yourself as someone who was wise enough to leave first. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start knowing, "I am worthy of someone who doesn't make me doubt that." And that knowledge, it doesn't come from a relationship. It comes from within. It comes from the quiet moments when you chose yourself, when you said no to neglect, when you refused to normalize silence, when you stood firm in your worth even when no one was watching. And that strength, that's unshakable. No rejection can erase it. No loneliness can break it. Because you've learned the most important lesson of all, love should not cost you your peace. It should restore it. And if it doesn't, it's not love, it's attachment. Not connection, it's convenience. And you are too evolved now to confuse the two. So if he's proving every day that you are loved, that he shows up, that he cares, that he fights for you, then hold on. Not because you're afraid to lose him, but because you've found something real. And if he isn't, then let go. Not with resentment, but with gratitude for the lesson, for the growth, for the courage it took to see clearly. Because the woman who walks away from what's not serving her doesn't lose love. She makes space for the love that will. And when it comes, it won't make you beg. It won't make you doubt. It will simply feel like home. And you'll know, without question, that you were never late. You were just becoming ready, and now you are.